she spent years peddling wellness products when she worked for Gwyneth Paltrow's company, Goop. But when Elise Loehnen realized that she no longer had a healthy relationship with her body, she quit. Her new book, she explores how that sort of culture has affected our expectations of women.
It's called On Our Best Behavior, The 7 Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good. And Elise joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we poke fun of Paltrow and Goop quite a bit. I know you're a very smart person. Did you really believe that some of these weird things she hawks are beneficial for women?
You know, it's always hard to predict what helps any person. And I think that we can all acknowledge that if something works for someone, that's great. It might not work for us. It tends to be highly individual.
So what was it that made you leave? Was it, I mean, there's a lot of, in our overall culture that are promoting women have to be a certain way, look a certain way. Was there something about working there that you felt maybe was unhealthy for you?
No, essentially, I came to the end of a road with myself. And it had started in my early 20s when I was a magazine editor in New York. And it was this pervasive feeling, which for me showed up as an anxiety disorder, that if I just kept trying to achieve, trying to be a good woman, a good person, a good employee, a good mother, that someday I would reach a point where I would feel safe and secure. And what I realized at sort of the pinnacle of my career is that I was never going to outrun these feelings of not feeling good enough. I was never going to find solutions on the exterior. And I needed to turn and understand what these feelings were, what these voices in my head were. And I realized that they are cultural stories, toxic stories about women and goodness, and how good women need no rest, have no appetite or desire, need no attention, acclaim, or praise, and never get upset about any of it. I realized they're toxic ancient stories that many of us hear routinely.
So what was it? I noticed in some of your notes here that a lot of it was, you felt like you were punishing your body. It's like you tied this to like the kind of the 7 deadly sins. Were you doing
Yes.
like cleanses and stuff? Is that part of the culture there? Or, I mean, women in general do that. Did you stop doing that kind of stuff?
I have stopped doing that, but I started doing that well before I worked there. I started in my 20s. I started before. I think every woman I know has some sort of body dysmorphia. We're constantly moralizing and talking to ourselves about how we've been bad and now we need to be good. And there's an idea in our culture, it's part of our medical system, it's everywhere, that good women have good, abiding, conforming bodies. They're disciplined. They're highly in control about everything they eat and therefore what they look like. And I think, at least I've discovered about myself, I really don't have as much control as I think. And I could save a lot of energy not focusing on my body. I'm not going to solve my anguish there.
Aren't outlets like Goop part of the problem and not the solution, based on what your definition is here?
I don't know. I think we have a massive cultural problem. I write about it as a 7 deadly sins.
But would you say that Goop is part of that?
Sure. Any company is part of a culture. Women's media, though, is much bigger than any single source. I mean,
Sure.
We're talking about distorted ideas of beauty that have changed with the centuries and with millennia. So I don't think you can look around and say, oh, it's them and it's them. And no company is immune from our culture. I think that's part of what this book is about. This is so big and vast. It acts on all of us in very invisible ways, in ways we wouldn't necessarily say, I choose that or I believe that.
So when you see things like, I don't know, it could be Gwyneth Paltrow, it could be another celebrity saying, I only eat almonds, 5 almonds, I have bone broth soup, I have this. I mean, it makes me crazy. I mean, that's not how the regular person eats or lives. Have you changed that about what you've done in your life, and do you feel better?
Yeah, I mean, I really tried to not police myself about what I eat. And what I'll say about the wider culture and these beauty standards, at least there's some honesty there that this is not sustainable by an average woman. What I think is worse is when people say, oh, I eat whatever I want. And I just look like this. I think that in a way is more demoralizing. I would rather hear, oh, extreme starvation is how I look like this. At least then you can say as a woman, oh, no thanks.
Yeah.
I want to
That's
do that.
very true. It's very true.
Yeah, so in the end, though, I mean, I think people do all these things because they think it's going to make them more successful, whatever their definition of that is. So can you be as successful just bringing balance into your life instead of working out, working harder, running around, getting all these things done?
Well, I think a lot of us are now understanding that this idea that we can be good by achieving all of these things is a bit of a fallacy, and that we're just exhausted, depleted, and no closer to any of our goals. And so part of this book, part of On Our Best Behavior, is reclaiming all of these instincts that make us human, and to spend less time trying to deny ourselves and more time living.
Well, for more, you can check out EliseLunin.com or follow her on social media. She also has a podcast, Pulling the Thread, and the book is On Our Best Behavior. Thanks for being with us,
Thank
Elise.
you.
Thank you.